I am honored to have Rose Baier. Am I pronouncing your name right, Rose?
It's close, Baier.
Oh, I'm
Baier.
sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Oh, Baier. Okay.
Yep.
And Rose is a former union steward, and her husband is currently working for Leinenkugel Brewery. And they've been on strike. I think today's the 32nd day,
33rd,
33rd
33.
day.
Yeah.
And she's come on to talk about the offers, the contract offers, the demands of the workers. And one of the things that I've noticed on your TikTok is how you have done a great job of talking about the commitment, the loyalty that the brewers and the Teamsters have to, you guys call it Laney or Lanny?
Liney's.
Yeah.
Yep,
And
Liney's.
you guys, the commitment and loyalty that you guys have to it, but also one of the great points that you make is what it does for your local economy. Would you care to talk about that a little bit?
Right. So Leinenkugels is one of the main boosters of our economy in Chippewa Falls. We're up in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. It's a little town kind of in the Midwestern area of Wisconsin, but Leinenkugel started out really just in Chippewa Falls and has grown nationally now. There's small breweries. They have a brewery down in Milwaukee at 10th Street. They have some Trenton, Ohio, Texas that have cropped up too. But Leinenkugels brings thousands and thousands of people into town with the economy here. Just they have the lodge where people visit. They can take tours. And they're also a big part of our community, with fundraising organizations and donations and things like that. It really is. Leinenkugels is really the heart of Chippewa County
Right.
and Chippewa Falls.
I see that. Now, is this strike nationwide, or is it just the local up there in Wisconsin?
No, right now it's just the local in Wisconsin. It's just this brewery, this Teamsters local. Milwaukee 10th Street Brewery was pretty close, but they did just settle their contract a bit ago. Someone had reached out and told me that Trenton, the one in Trenton, Ohio, is actually putting their negotiations on hold because of the things that are happening right now in Chippewa. There's also a brewery which isn't, it's in Vancouver, which is owned by Molson Coors, that is currently on strike as well, I found out, and going through the same exact thing as we are at Leinenkugels with Molson.
Right. It's frustrating. You and I were
Mhm.
talking a little bit before we actually went on the air. And one of the things that is so frustrating, I'm with the UAW. I work at General Motors. The Big Three's contract is coming up on September 14th.
Mhm.
And one of the most frustrating things that we have seen in our industry is that these companies and corporations, and I don't know how it is with Leinenkugel, maybe you can expound on that a little bit, but
Mhm.
the auto industry is making at or near record profits for the last 10 years. I think the calculation is like $250 billion in profits. And we have people who are working now that are actually making less money than they were before the Big Three went into bankruptcy in 2009. We still have not come out of that recession when it comes to worker pay and benefits.
Right.
What kind of profits are they making at Leinenkugel?
Well, since they sold out to Molson Coors, I don't know specifically because they've bought up so many different small breweries throughout, the country. But overall with Molson Coors, I think the numbers, if I'm remembering right, were like $10.8 billion dollars. And I want to say that was like in a quarter. It was, I might be off on that. All the numbers are I'm getting that mixed up with the CEO's salary of 9.1 million. I know that's in a year.
Right.
And then he gets his bonuses on top of that. But yeah, they had put out, Molson Coors had put out a notice like on social media that, their numbers were the best they've been since the merger and that they really are doing well, making a profit. I think people are arguing that's because of the other Busch Light drama as well. But another article that I read said that Leinenkugels really boosted, as well as some of their other craft specialty beers have boosted their profits as well.
Right.
And that's really, I think, is what is so frustrating, with this whole strike and the offer that's on the table. And it's even more frustrating when you see they're not giving in, they're not coming back to the table to even budge, but yet they're bragging about all their profits and how well they're doing at the same time.
That's really frustrating because they cannot make the money that they make without the workers.
No,
And
no.
in this so-called capitalistic society, they being the CEOs, the managers, the company owners, the corporate masters love to tout how this is a capitalistic society, and they do everything they can to capitalize their profits. But when the workers want to capitalize on their labor, they get stingy, and all of a sudden they start saying that they don't have any money, yet they have 9 million to pay your CEO.
Right. Correct. Correct. Yeah. And when you talk about managers, Liney's historically, it really has been a family business, dating back to the Leinenkugels themselves. Jake Leinenkugel, Dick Leinenkugel just retired. Now one of his relatives is taking over, as the president, but you still have Molson Coors over them. I think what's frustrating as well is I feel like they don't have some of the management locally. They're now from out of town. They're now kind of transplants in the area. They aren't those family run businesses from the community. And I don't think they're on board either from what I'm seeing or hearing. And it doesn't help. I think if we had some of our hometown management on board, advocating for their workers, it would possibly be helping the situation, but they aren't.
Right.
At least not all of them. There's a handful that have been very supportive. I've been out there talking to the men and women, but there's also a handful that are sabotaging and not backing them.
How has the community response been to the strike, the picketers?
It's been wonderful. I mean, I've been down. I'm so invested in this. I go down on my lunch breaks. I'm down there. I was off this week, so I was down there quite a few times. The community is wonderful. I think, we have this thing going on where people are honking when they come by, not just to show support and to irritate the heck out of the management inside, but it seems like every single person's honking. People are bringing lunch to them. They're stopping in the morning. I think they have more donuts and coffee than they can drink. And these are just random community. I mean, it's Chippewa Falls is a wonderful giving community. It really is. And even people from out of town, that are a lot of people come from all over the place to visit the lodge at Liney's. And when they find out they're on strike, I'd say like 12 people turned away the other day. I think a lot from Illinois. They're very supportive when they found out what was going on. People have stopped over to them when they're striking and given them money to go get food or, just told them that they stand with them. So even out of towners it's been a lot of community support.
Right. Now, is there a strike fund that anybody that cares to can donate to help the striking workers out?
They do have a strike fund. It is on the Teamsters 662 page. I don't have the information in front of me, but I know they did establish a strike fund that they are putting. A lot of other local unions in the area have been great. One of them just stopped by today and brought a check to put toward that strike fund, which has been super helpful because, as you know, they're not getting paid. So right. that gets difficult.
Do they not have any strike pay at all, or?
They do get some from Teamsters, and it's a pretty good amount, but not their full pay, obviously. So every week they do get some from Teamsters, and then actually I believe another local union was kicking in, so they got a little bit extra, which is awesome. And I have to put a shout out to Team Care is our health insurance at Leinenkugels, and they actually agreed to keep everybody on and aren't making them pay anything into that for the insurance. As of right now, everybody's still covered, so that's wonderful.
That's very good. One of the things that you've posted, and I went through every one of your TikTok videos because they're excellent. You do a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
But one of the things that really struck me is you've got a couple of TikToks that, first of all, they show the years of service to Leinenkugel, but then a couple of them you interview some of the workers and you ask about it, and they talk about their family. That is a multi-generational company for some of the people that work there.
Right. It's crazy, and I didn't realize it because I just got to thinking, my husband's been there 30 years full time, and he worked there through high school and college. So he's been there probably 37 years himself. But I'm like, well, I know he's been here this long and he's been here this long. And then I got thinking, how many of you have been here that long? And it was just kind of astonishing when I put it on paper. I was like, holy moly, there's 40 strikers and like 20 of you have been here more than 10 and probably 15 of them more than 25 years. So, and it is I did interview, I've been trying to do some TikToks and interview, can't talk them into it very good, but I'm like, you know what? I'm putting my face all over the world. You guys get your butts over here and interview for me. I'm like, I don't want to interview, but I'm
Right.
trying to interview a couple of them every day, just to get, it's to get their word out. It's not about what I want to say. But there were some other ones that weren't on that had been there 37 years. Another one was 35 years. So I want to say there's at least 28 years and up. There's probably 13 people that have been there 28 years and up. So,
Right.
and then the family generation, I mean, the one guy's family, his dad was the brewmaster. And before that, his uncle was the brewmaster. So that was like 116 years of family generations. And then
Right.
one of them actually, I believe, dates back, his family history dates all the way back to Jacob Leinenkugel himself. So it's
So you have
very,
some that are legacy generation. I guess they go back and have been there. The legacy is there from the beginning of the company.
right. And I think that's what's so hard. Some of the stuff I've been trying to get out is the naysayers out there, the people that are commenting negatively. Those are a lot of the questions I'm trying to ask the guys and gals on the line, just to get their opinion out. And I mean, some of them are like, well, why don't they just leave? Why wouldn't they? If they're not happy, just go somewhere else. There's all kinds of jobs. And like, if you look at this on paper, these are not the kind of people that just leave. This is like ingrained in their blood and their heart. This is the kind of people that are dedicated, committed, stick around. They're not going to just leave a job.
Right. They are absolutely loyal to Leinenkugel.
Right.
And they're good at
And
their
they love
jobs.
it.
Right.
Right. They love Leinenkugel. I mean, these guys love Leinenkugels, these guys and gals. I mean, I'm kind of sad I can't drink it right now, but
Yeah.
we all love Leinenkugels.
Well, for full disclosure, I don't think I've ever drank one. I've seen
Oh.
them. One of my sons, I know that he has ordered and drank some before. So I guess I'll have to give it I'll toast with it after you guys get a contract.
Yeah, for all of you all out there that haven't tried, it's not very good right now because they have other people making it that don't know what they're doing. But I mean, eventually after the strike, it'll be awesome.
Right. Well, I got a chuckle out of one of your TikTok videos. You showed an empty shelf, and the yellow was on the front of it was saying the product. I don't remember word for word what it said.
Oh yeah.
But it was actually pretty cool.
Due to production issues, yeah.
Right. You know what reminds me? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The thing I got a chuckle out of is because they said, their news media when all this happened is we will have absolutely no production issues. This will not affect our production, but it's kind of affecting production a little bit. So
yeah, so they put on a good face for the media, but the empty shelves tell the real story.
And there's actually some bars in the area that are out of Leinenkugels now. There's quite a few that just don't have the regular or the light. So
right. You talked about the loyalty and the commitment, the generational commitment to that company. And here it is, 2023. They're making enough profit that they can pay the CEO $9 million. They're making tens of millions of dollars in profit themselves. And the loyalty of the people who have made that beer great is out the window. And that's one of the things that is just really aggravating to those that are us in industries. There was a time when somebody could get out of high school, go to work in an auto factory, work 30 years, retire at around the age of 50, and have a comfortable lifestyle. And those days are long gone. I mean, they really are. And it's a sad shame. And corporations don't care. The only thing they care about is their bottom dollar, making money. So is there any discussion that some of the other locals maybe you started a domino effect? I know you said that one of the other locals has stopped their negotiation process. Is there any talk about some of them going out on strike in support of you, or are they not all union?
Not that I've heard of. I mean, I don't think they're all in our same union. And not that I've heard of locally, but I just think that's kind of
spot. Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't know. I know there's a couple, I'm trying to think of who it was that are close. I know there's so many people have been reaching out. They've been wonderful. Just saying, we're coming up, our contract's coming up. I think we're going to be striking, like you said, there could be strikes in other areas, but around here there is another Teamster union, and I feel bad because they're pretty tiny and they're getting a lot of publicity. But
You froze,
in,
Rose. There you go.
oops, did I lose you? Teamster 662, local over in, I want to say it's like, it might Rhineland, it's in Wisconsin. And so this New Dairy Select is currently on strike as well, which is kind of ironic. We have the same unions involved in both of these strikes at once. And like Leinenkugels, there hasn't been a strike there in over 30 years. I think it was 1980s was the last strike. So I know we're trying to support them. They're trying to support us.
Well,
They
Rose,
just have a,
yeah, when we wrap this up, shoot me an email that with the links to the websites and stuff like that, and I'll get them posted on our YouTube.
awesome. Okay.
And
Yeah, I actually redid one of my videos. So before because I'm new to TikTok, as we talked about, so I had made a Powtoon, and I'm better at that. But I actually redid it to include the New Dairy Select in there, just to show them some support, so we could post that out there. But
good.
yeah, now I've kind of moved on.
Well, the goal here for you coming on the show is obviously to get more exposure to your cause, but
Right.
I owe a debt of gratitude to the Teamsters. I was the president at UAW Local 2250 in Wentzville when we struck General Motors. And leading up to the contract deadline, I had reached out to the Teamsters as well as the building trades and talked to the leadership. And the Teamster, the president of the local Teamster chapter, came up and we talked, and he said, not one part will be delivered to the plant. Not one assembled vehicle will leave the plant on a truck driven by a Teamster. And the night we walked out, it was 11 o'clock Central Daylight Time on September 15th, 2019. And when they walked out of the plant, we had about 800 people in our union hall. It was mostly standing room only. Spilling out on the sidewalk and up on the stage with me was the president of the Teamsters. And after I did my speech and talked to him, he stood up and he told them the same thing, and he gave them hell. And he told them to stand together in solidarity. And when we hit the picket lines, the Teamsters were there with us, and not one part was delivered. So I feel like I kind of got to do a little payback here, because the Teamsters are awesome. And the new president, Sean O'Brien, the international president, that dude is hardcore. He's a throwback. And I have no doubt that the Teamsters are in good hands with him at the helm. And I feel pretty much the same way about our new international president, Sean Fain. He has laid a hard line, drawn a hard line in the sand with the big three about what our expectations are coming out of these contract negotiations. If we don't get them, we'll be walking the pickets. And that's just the way it goes. And we can both agree, nobody wins in a strike. You guys have been out for 33 days. It will take a long time for the strikers, the people out on strike, to earn that money back, even if you do get a substantial raise. Does it look like there's any end in sight? Are there negotiations? Are they even meeting? Or has Leinenkugel just said, no, we're done?
And you froze up on me there for a second, Glenn. Can you repeat that?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Is there any negotiations coming up? I mean, or is Leinenkugel just not even sitting down and talking?
Well, it's Molson Coors, and I know they came back to the table. It was probably maybe 2 weeks ago on like a Tuesday, which was worthless because they basically asked us where we were at. They told them where we were at, which hadn't really changed. And then they stalled for about 3 hours, and then they came back and said, we offered them the same exact thing. So at this point, we haven't really heard anything at all.
Right.
Or I haven't had any updates on whether there's any movement. I ask every day, anything today,
Right.
But nothing so far.
Yeah, it does get frustrating, and I hope that you guys can stay together in solidarity. Now, are any scabs crossing the picket lines?
There are people that they sent up from Milwaukee area, and I don't know if they're like management or if they're I don't think it's anybody in a union or anything. But there are people that have been sent up to try to come in. Some of the trucking companies, you've probably seen a couple of my videos from that one too, have been crossing. And then there's one that actually is trying not to cross, but was threatened by management that if they didn't, their contracts would all be ended. But he's been talking with the workers about stuff and been very good about that. But yeah, as far as we know, there were a few that came in. They're trying to get beer out the door, but I don't think they're getting much accomplished at this point. There's not very many things moving.
Reminds me of when John Deere went on strike, the UAW at John Deere went on strike. John Deere thought they would finish up some of the tractors.
Mhm.
That was in Wisconsin, I believe.
Yep,
They were
yep.
gonna finish up some of the tractors in farm equipment. And a
Mhm.
manager ran a tractor into a wall and caused
Mhm.
more damage than what they would have had. And eventually John Deere came to their senses, and our UAW brothers and sisters up there got a pretty good contract out of it. And I hope the same for you all. I mean, it's just really, really aggravating to see these companies
Well,
and corporations take all that money and not share. You guys don't want to break them. You don't want all the profits. You just want to be paid a fair and a fair wage with good benefits.
right, right. And we have to say, being involved with Leinenkugels for the years, I mean, they have some pretty good benefits, but they've given up things over the years to get those benefits. I know people are commenting, Teamsters isn't doing very good if that's all you're at this point. Um, but you give and you take. You give up to get a few things, and that type of thing. At this point, I feel like we're giving everything up and they're not giving anything, which is unfortunate. I know there's concern. I know a lot of people that are commenting on my TikToks and that are like, well, they're just going to close the doors of Liney's because Molson Coors doesn't care about Liney's, a company like that, a corporation. We hope that doesn't happen, obviously, but Leinenkugels is also one of the bigger craft breweries in the United States too. So I don't know if there's a video out there I did share too. It's back in 2016 where the brothers Jake and Dick were talking about Leinenkugels, and it really summed it up so nicely. The history, where it came from, what it's all about. It's all about community and the when they brew that brew, it's really all the heart that goes into it. And I just think without Leinenkugels, without it in Chippewa Falls, they'd lose that. It wouldn't be the same. So I mean, I'm hoping that's not the case, but my message to people is it's not on these people's backs. If that is what happens, it's not up to them to say, okay, I'm just going to give up and not fight for this and fight for what's right. I'm not going to fight for the younger people coming in. These guys, like I said, they've been there. Most of them have been there. They're ready to retire. They aren't doing this for themselves. I mean, really, they're doing it for these younger kids that are coming in and the people that are coming after them. A lot of them could just walk out the door today, probably. They wouldn't have to be out on that picket line.
Right. But that's the way it should be. And
Hmm.
I've said over and over, look, I'm an old guy. That's quite obvious.
Hmm.
In the fight that I fight today, the reason I stay active, the reason I keep doing what I'm doing isn't for me. I could leave, I could retire, I could be comfortable and be done.
Hmm.
But I keep doing what I do and trying to educate the general public because we owe that to the people who came before us. Blood was literally spilled, lives were lost for the benefits that we have. And we owe it to them, but we also owe it to our brothers and sisters that are active, like our brothers over and sisters over at the Teamsters at Leinenkugel.
Hmm.
But we
That's a
owe it.
hard one.
For me, it is. For me, it is. But I'm terrible at names anyway. But then we also owe it to the generation that's coming behind us to try to leave them a better workplace than what we had. And I hate
Mhm.
to say it, but we boomers in my generation have failed. And I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I continue to work as hard as I do to try to educate the public, to try to humanize what we do, what union members are. The general perception of unions from the public's perspective is that we're greedy, we're corrupt, we're lazy. That beer doesn't brew itself. Our
Right.
trucks and vans do not build themselves. It takes workers and it takes a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to make this thing run. And we middle class unions are the economic engine that drives this country. What would happen to your community if Leinenkugel left town? What would happen to it?
Well, we'd lose a lot. We'd lose a lot of profit. We'd lose a lot of the tourist industry, which supports all the other businesses in our community. People coming into Leinenkugels end up visiting a lot of the restaurants, a lot of the local taverns, downtown stores. Yeah, we'd lose history. We'd lose a lot if it wasn't in our community.
Right. And
It's
that's
just you
one
can't
thing.
go anywhere without seeing Liney's, talking about Liney's. I mean, it's just part of it, part of our culture.
Right. Right. And it's very important that we do what we can to try to to help Leinenkugel maintain profitability, but get our fair share of the pie as well, so that we can sustain our families and take
Right.
care of them in a good, proper way.
Right.
If they do close, you don't just lose the tourism, you lose the tax dollars on all that, but you also
Yeah.
tax dollars, the income taxes on the brewery, the workers at the brewery. And that's a
Mhm.
substantial amount. Your school districts suffer, your hospitals, your roads, your bridges, your first responders. It's not just about the brewery and the people there, it's about the community. And it's really
Mhm.
good to hear that the community has stepped up in support of the striking workers. And I hope that
Mhm.
Leinenkugel or who is it? Coors,
Molson Coors
Molson
that took.
Coors.
Mhm.
Are they over? Now explain that hierarchy to me. Is Molson Coors the ones you're negotiating with, or is it Lang?
Mhm. That's
It's
the
Molson
problem.
Coors.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have a new negotiator on board, and supposedly this negotiator is the one that actually negotiated with the auto industry, possibly in Detroit, I think. I don't, I mean, not very reasonable. So
Oh,
it's been pretty difficult. It's not local. And like I said, the plant manager, the managers that are not local or from here originally, aren't really supportive at that point either with them. So we're negotiating with them and Molson Coors, but they have the last say in the matter.
right. Now, one of the things that I did see that you posted was that the plant manager, the manager of the brewery, got rid of your Johnny on the spot, the porta potties
Yeah.
for your picketers. And you
Right.
said somebody in the community stepped up and rented one for you guys.
Right. Yeah, I was livid. So, yeah, these porta potties have been there forever, and we had heard some scuttlebutt that they were possibly gonna get moved, that he didn't want them using them. So one day they showed up and they were gone. Apparently he had indicated that they were because of a festival coming up, but they've never ever been moved during that time. They've never, so I had posted it everywhere because I was really mad. And then I had several people reach out to me saying, hey, we're going to get on it. We're going to get someone to get it. And you can put it in my yard if you can't find a spot. I had a person, so yeah, we got one like immediately. Someone
Right.
put it across the street. So yeah, I mean, and it's not even, it's the principle, I mean, they could have walked down a few more blocks to the park or whatever, but it's like, no, you're not going to do that. So,
Like, no, you guys got to stand
right,
firm. You got to hold your
right.
hands, and you got to be
Yeah.
visible out in front of that brewery, or the whole purpose
Mhm.
of your picket is defeated.
Right. Yep. So yeah, it's just little things like that that they're trying instead of being supportive and just, and then the other thing is they hired all these armed security guards. I mean, we are in a pretty tiny little community here. It's kind of funny actually that they have these guys standing around, probably I think at one point there was 8 of them and they're taping everything going on and taping. So we started taping them, I'm like, hey, you guys want to be on TikTok? I'm starting to get really good at it. But yeah, and that's frustrating because what they paid at this point for those people to stand there and do absolutely nothing, that would have been the raise that the guys and gals asked for, I mean, that's the frustrating part. They put fences up, it's like they're peaceful. These are peaceful people that love this place. They're just out there, doing their thing.
Right.
So that's fine.
One of the things that I hope that they realize is they're not just losing money during the strike and the way that they're going about it, but they
Mhm.
also will be losing customer loyalty, because there will be
Mhm.
people that will switch over and maybe
Right.
try Bud Light and say,
Right.
hey, you know
I
what? This is
know.
actually pretty darn good beer.
Yeah, and I've heard that. I've heard that from a lot of people. Like, these guys aren't drinking. These guys are like true Liney's light drinkers, and they're switching over to something else. I'm like, but they might lose them. They might lose them coming back. Yeah, which is unfortunate. I don't know. Are we doing it the wrong way? Maybe we should just boycott Molson Coors products, but drink them out of Liney's, because then maybe their Liney's profits will raise their core, the other. But I don't know. I don't know. It's
Well,
hard.
like we talked about earlier, nobody wins in a strike. It's one of the worst things that
Oh,
happen in an industry, whether it's the auto workers, the railroad, which they were prohibited, but
mhm.
the auto workers, anybody, the brewers, the Teamsters, anytime
Right.
there's a strike, it's tough. It's difficult on the families, it's difficult on the community, and it's
Right.
difficult for the company. Not that I have any sympathy for the company, because they're the reason you're on strike. All they'd have to do is sit down and negotiate a fair and equitable contract that benefits the workers and lets the company keep a large portion of their profits.
Right.
That they don't
Right.
want that. They're greedy. Well, I wish you the best of luck. You have been great to come on the show. I will get this posted to YouTube and send it off to our producer. It will eventually air probably shortly after Labor Day on the Heartland Podcast Network. I have been working with them and they do a lot of great work. If you're not part of it, jump on there. They have a Patreon and some of that. But we'll do everything we can to get the word out and help you guys spread the word about Leinenkugel and I cannot remember that.
Molson Coors.
Molson
Yeah,
Coors, thank you.
yeah.
I guess I'm getting mad cow disease or something here. Anyway, you guys are doing great and you
Thank
are
you.
doing wonderful on TikTok, spreading the word. And I'm going to give
Thank
you.
you. I appreciate your support too. It's like like you reached out, another union guy reached out and have been helping me promote this and sharing. And so I appreciate your help and your support too.
Absolutely. This fight isn't just yours, it's for all of us. And like I said earlier, the Teamsters stood very tall when we went out on strike and they helped us. And without their support, they might have continued to try to run our plant.
Right.
But when they weren't going to knew they weren't going to get any parts, we're on an as needed delivery system. So they knew they weren't going to be able to run. So the Teamsters really, really stood up, helped us. And this is my opportunity to try to help them back. So Rose, I appreciate you coming on. You've been a wonderful guest and I look forward to getting some more information from you and following your page. To the folks that are out there that are on TikTok, give them your address, let them know where they can find you. And if you have any other social media, they can follow you there as well.
Sure. So I'm on TikTok as Rose Fighting for the Teamsters on TikTok and social media. I've been posting some public stuff on my private page, but the public post for all the labor stuff is Rose Baier, Baier. Yeah, so I'm trying to keep updates out there at least every day or two. And like I said, trying to interview the actual people at the strike on the ground to answer questions just about,
Right.
about
One of
things.
the things on one of your TikToks, or was it your Facebook page? I don't remember which one. You had the contact information
Oh
for
yeah.
go on down, and I already emailed them. I haven't heard anything back yet, but
Really? Huh, that's
yeah,
a surprise.
yeah, right. I encourage everybody to email the CEOs out there for Molson Coors and ask them to sit down and negotiate a fair and equitable contract. You don't have to be ignorant or snotty with them. But let them know that you support the workers up there and maybe get that message out as well. So Rose, again, thank you for coming on. You've been a tremendous guest. Good luck. Stay in
Thank you.
touch. And if this thing continues on, maybe we'll have you come on with one of the brewers and talk about it.
Yeah,
So
that'd be great.